We're not exactly sure when the Ancient Gods Part 2 will come out, but I hope to see it released in the next few months. Due to you-know-what, game production has been slowed down drastically, and the first DLC only came out a couple of months back in October. That being said, the Ancient Gods Part 1 left players on a cliffhanger. Spoiler alert from here on out if you haven't played the expansion, but the Doomslayer resurrects the Dark Lord and it turns out to be a demonic version of himself. The player will face off against the Dark Lord, but it is unclear whether he will be defeated or not. I'm leaning towards no, since the Dark Lord is the top guy in Hell, and if he's killed off, Hell will cease being a threat. With all that plot mentioned, I did want to go over my little wish list for the Ancient Gods Part 2. I'm not a lore junkie, so most of my ideas for the second DLC will not be about story, but instead about gameplay. The first item on my list is new demons that make sense. I know there are fans that want Doom 3 enemies to return in this DLC, and for id Software to go all out with creating new demons, but I don't want them to add enemies just for the sake of it. The demons in Doom Eternal serve specific purposes within combats, and the flow of the game is centered around their behaviors. So with that in mind, if there are no new enemies that make sense to put in the game and will actually add something to the DLC, then I don't want id Software to include any just for the sake of it. If they do want to bring back a previous demon or whatever, that's perfectly fine and I welcome that, but at the same time, there needs to be clear utility. The Ancient Gods Part 1 did a good job of adding enemies that gave the player a new challenge and enhanced the combat arena. The Blood Maykrs, the turrets, and especially the spirits all add to the combat loop of Doom Eternal, and I can even see them being included in future master levels. I hope the Ancient Gods Part 2 continues this train of thought, and I'm sure id Software will do a great job with any additional monsters. Let's talk about the potential locations in the Ancient Gods Part 2. I would not mind if the entire expansion is set in different parts of Hell, and if that were to be the case, I would love to see more unique Hell locations. Maybe id Software can recreate Mount Erebus from E3 M6 and turn it into an actual mountain that players need to climb, or perhaps they can take the medieval gothic look of Quake and throw some of that into a Hell level. This is apparently the final expansion for Doom Eternal, and in the Ancient Gods Part 1, we did go into the Blood Swamps, and while that was cool, I would appreciate seeing more of what Hell has to offer. It doesn't have to be all fire and brimstone either, I just want to be in Hell more for this new DLC. In the Ancient Gods Part 1, there wasn't much of a hub area and we only walked around the Ark Carrier once, in which there was nothing to do but go into the portal. For Part 2, I would be interested in seeing the Fortress of Doom return with maybe some updates here and there. I know there were codex entries, bonus runes, and extra lives to collect in the Ancient Gods Part 1, but I wish there were the Funko Pops or the music CDs, and with the second expansion, I hope to see them again. With that said, the Fortress of Doom or some other hub area needs to be implemented as well to make that work. I know this is only a minor thing, but it's still an aspect that I appreciate about Doom Eternal and want to see added in the new DLC. The fourth item on my wish list is pretty important. I don't want id Software to add too much artificial weapon utility. Let me unpack that a bit and explain what I'm talking about. In the first DLC, the only way you could kill the spirit was by using the plasma rifle's microwave beam. Now I'm not saying that design choice by itself is a bad thing, because I liked how they gave the microwave beam some love by making it a required weapon to beat the spirits. Using one weapon only to kill a specific enemy type is good when it happens once in a blue moon, and that's what I'm getting at here. I don't want them to make it so you can only kill an enemy with this weapon over and over again in the Ancient Gods Part 2. That creates artificial weapon utility, and again, it's effective once or twice with the microwave beam and the spirits, but it shouldn't be a regular approach to combat. If they added more enemies into the Ancient Gods, I would like them to instead have weak points, or at least weaknesses that would make certain guns more efficient than others, but you can still take care of them using any gun you'd like. That way the expansion isn't forcing you to use one gun to kill one type of enemy, but there is still some strategy about how to take the guy out. Don't get me wrong, I love the spirits and I've outlined this in a previous video. I will link it down below, so I recommend you watch it. But anyway, the spirit is a great enemy, when it's the only enemy with one specific method of killing them. I hope that id Software recognizes this and doesn't overstep the mark with artificial weapon utility, but I'm sure they won't. The final thing I would love to see in the Ancient Gods Part 2 is branching paths within levels. While you can explore for secrets in Doom Eternal's levels, they don't follow what you'd call a non-linear design approach. These are not the same as classic Doom's maps, in which they sometimes can be sprawling and filled with areas to explore. Doom Eternal's levels are linear, but you can still find secrets and little hidden rooms if you look hard enough. With the Ancient Gods Part 2, the ideal scenario is if id Software added some non-linear levels, where you really have to find your way around the map to beat it. I'm not saying make it into a full-blown maze, but give us some branching paths for those who like exploring. This will further bridge the gap between classic Doom and Doom Eternal, and although I'm completely happy with Doom Eternal and it's an excellent evolution for the series, I still would appreciate some non-linear designs. The Blood Swamps had two branching paths you could take with the left and right trial, but you still had to complete them both to proceed. This is a good start, and I hope to see this idea fleshed out in the upcoming DLC. So those were all of my personal wants for the Ancient Gods Part 2, but above all else, I want the expansion to surprise me. Give me a thrilling, entertaining, and challenging experience, and I can't complain too much. Nevertheless, I am looking forward to the second DLC, and what would you guys love to see in the Ancient Gods Part 2? Write down enemies you'd want to see, new guns you'd want to play around with, locations you'd like to visit, etc. in the comment section below. That being said, this has been my wish list for the Ancient Gods Part 2. Thanks for watching.